They just said he was always kind of a creepy guy.
The only thing I can remember as a kid growing up is that you were not allowed to come to Starved Rock.
It's such a wonderful place. It's such a beautiful place. It's such an odd place because you can step into places inside that park and don't feel like you're in Illinois anymore. It's really an amazing, amazing place. I'm Steve Stout. I live in Utica, Illinois. I'm 59 years old. I'm a staff writer for the local newspaper in Ottawa, Illinois, The Times. And about 25 years ago, I wrote a book on the Starved Rock murders. This crime is very unusual because usually it's who was killed or who did the killing. This is one of the rare crimes that you'll ever find that it's the location is the most important thing. It's a state park. It's a place of recreation. It's a place where people feel safe, feel secure. 3 women from Riverside came down on March 14th, 1960 to spend a few days of rest and relaxation here at the lodge. They'd been here before. They knew the path. They parked their car. They checked into their rooms. They ate lunch at the lodge's spectacular dining room. And from that dining room table, they hiked into St. Louis Canyon. 2 days later, they were found beat to death in a crime that shocked the entire Illinois Valley, stunned the nation, and really began a legend around this case that will never go away. The summer of 1960 was hot for everybody here in the Illinois Valley. Harlan Warren, the state's attorney of LaSalle County at the time, it was a lot hotter for him. He was just upset about the lack of success in this case. So we called for all the evidence to be brought back into his office. And he looked at the evidence from this case, bloody clothes and frozen tree limb and a broken pair of binoculars and the crushed up camera case. What's here that could help me solve this case? What is in this room that the killer left at the scene of the crime that could help me find him? And he kept going back to the string, the twine, the piece of material that the ladies were tied up with. Where did this string come from? But he said, you got to start at the first place first, the lodge. He goes to the lodge one night and talks to the concessionaire, a man named Nick Spiros, who ran the lodge at the time. Nick, you got any string like this? He held it up. Nick said, well, probably housekeeping has string, but wait a minute, there's a ball of twine we keep in the kitchen, back closet, we tie up the meat with it when we bake the meat. Maybe it came from there or something. They scientifically proved that the twine off the women's body came from that exact ball of twine in the kitchen. And they ran everybody through the test again, all the employees, all the guests they could find. And you know, they're amazing, only one person flunked that test. Chester Otto Wigger, a dishwasher that worked at the lodge at the time. When Chester left the cabin where they were giving the polygraph exams, the technician looked up at the detectives and said, that's your guy. That's the guy who did it. Wigger told me to my face that they held a gun to his head and said, either sign the confession that was already typed out or we'll blow your brains out. I don't believe that. To sign every page of that confession, every picture that's in there. Every page, just not the end of the statement, every page of the statement. When you think about this case, you have to think about the court reporter who typed this up. Would she lie? Would she take the chance of losing her job? Would she take the chance of going to jail by putting an innocent man up for trial in a triple homicide case? No, she wouldn't. She would tell the truth, and she would write down accurately everything that was said in that room. That proves to you that he wasn't, that he may have been forced to confess, but he wasn't physically forced to confess. Mentally, I believe he was forced to confess, but not mentally. Chester Wigger committed the crime. He said the way he said he did with his multiple confessions. And even though it's strange and unusual to think how could one man attack, intimidate, and ultimately kill 3 women, each of whom were larger than he was, you have to go down to the canyon. You have to go to St. Louis Canyon and answer that question. 3 walls, about 100 foot high each, surrounded it. One way in, one way out of the canyon. These women walked down there, sightseeing, having a beautiful afternoon. Monday afternoon it was. Nobody was in the park at that time. They were confronted by a man who meant to do them harm. They resisted for a while. He fought back. He talked him into being tied up, and he said he was going to leave him alone, and I believe that. And I believe his confessions, his entire confessions, exactly how it went down. That he did this crime himself, the way he said he did, the way he described it, and the way he reenacted it after he was arrested. All that really counts a lot for me. They told me everything to do, everything to say, but anybody that was in the canyon that cold morning would testify that Chester Weger was leading that parade. He wasn't being told what to do or when to do it, that he showed everybody how he did it. The most important question they asked him that morning was this: Chester, it seems like you confessed to killing them in a certain spot in the canyon, but we found their bodies in another section, in a little overhang, a cave area down. He said he heard a sound. He looked up. He saw a red and white airplane. He named the colors. He thought it might be a state police plane. They go to the nearest airport, Ottawa Airport. When the detective drove up to the airport facilities outside Ottawa, he parked in front of a cream and red airplane. He got out of his car, walked exactly to that plane, opened up the logbook inside the glove compartment of the plane, and sure enough, March 14th, 1960, at 1:30, 1:45 in the afternoon, the plane was up in the air. That puts Weger in the canyon at the time of the murders, and I don't see how anybody can argue that. Weger's coming up next month. He's coming up for his 50th or 60th parole hearing. It'll be denied, that's my guess, if you confess to this crime. The parole board looks at admission of guilt as a sign of rehabilitation. So you're telling me you can confess to save your life, but you can't confess to these crimes again to gain your freedom? You'd be out in a year or two. And he said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to live with that black cloud over my head the rest of my life. I said, that black cloud is there permanently. The average length for a murder sentence in the state of Illinois is 10 years. Chester Weger's been in jail for 51 years now. I don't believe he'll be paroled. I believe he'll die a natural death in prison. Starved Rock is a very safe place. It's a very wonderful place. And I think it's very unfair that this horrible crime had to happen in this spot. Again, it's just bad things can happen in good places, and that's what happened that day, March 14th, 1960.